All right, let's get into it. The Jester who dismantled reality. This isn't your typical story about building kingdoms. No, this is about taking them apart, piece by piece, idea by idea. We're going to follow a character whose main weapon is, well, absurdity. And the real question isn't, can he win? It's what's going to be left of reality when he's done.
Okay, so this quote really sets the tone, doesn't it? A spiral of ontological deconstruction. That's not a phrase you hear every day, and it tells you right away this isn't some straightforward hero's quest. We're not talking about sword fights and sieging castles here. We're talking about literally dismantling someone's reality, tearing down the very ideas they stand on. It's a war fought in the mind on a completely metaphysical level.
So that leads us to this, the core question of this whole saga. How do you kill an idea with nothing but laughter? Think about that for a second. Our main character, he doesn't use a sword to end a life. He uses a joke to end a person's entire reason for living. It's a wild, kind of terrifying concept. So, yeah, how on earth does he pull that off?
Okay, let's start at the beginning. The first footprint, awakening from the barrow. And right away, you know this is going to be different. This isn't a hero waking up to save the world. No, this is something else. This is the first step on a path that's going to shake the very foundations of this world. So here he is, der Grüngold Narr, the green gold jester. And check out that title, a post-heroic prophet. That is so important. He's not here to save the day. The age of heroes, it's already over. He's awakened by the very last drop of a famous bloodline hitting the dirt. His job isn't to bring anything back to life, it's to bury what's already dead. He's basically the undertaker for an entire era, here to put a dead ideal in the ground for good.
And to understand him, you have to understand he's basically split right down the middle. He's a walking contradiction. On one side, you've got the gold. That's all about tarnished ambition, the will to power, the heavy weight of history. The story calls it the spirit of gravity. Then you've got the other side, the verdant. That's just wild, indifferent, entropic nature. It's chaos, and its weapon is active laughter. This war raging inside him, that's what drives this entire story.
So, you might be asking, how does a guy like this even function? Well, the story gets into some pretty deep philosophy here, specifically something called the absolute ik. The simplest way to put it is, his existence is created by himself. He posits himself into being. Think about it. You can't hurt his reputation, you can't insult his honor, because he just doesn't care. He doesn't need anyone else's approval to exist. It's like he wrote his own source code, and that makes him completely immune to all the social rules and heroic codes that keep everyone else in line.
Right, so armed with this philosophical superpower, the Jester steps out into the world, the second footprint, the mud of the assembly. And where does he go first? Straight to the heart of the system, the legal assembly, the thing.
So he gets to the assembly, and what does he see? A bunch of warriors and politicians all fighting over this golden arm ring, a symbol of power and status. And he just looks at them and drops this bombshell. You do not grip the gold is gripping you. Man, he sees right through it. They think they're in control of their ambition, but really, it's the other way around. They're slaves to it.
And this is where we see his weapon of choice in action. It's called the cosmic need. And no, it's not a sword or an axe. It's a ritual insult. But we're not talking about your mama jokes here. This is an insult so deep, so cosmic, that it doesn't just hurt your feelings. It shatters your entire purpose for living. He basically holds up a mirror and shows these heroes how absurd their whole heroic will is. And against that kind of verdant absurdity, their laws, their swords, their honor, it all just falls apart. It literally paralyzes them.
All right, so he's shaken up the social order. Next up, the third footprint, the shards of ice. He's going from the mud of the assembly to the frozen mountains to face a single person, the perfect embodiment of everything he's here to destroy.
And this brings us right back to that wild phrase from the beginning, ontological deconstruction. This is his masterpiece. His whole thing isn't about winning a fight, it's about making the fight completely pointless. He gets inside his opponent's head and just dismantles their reality. He convinces them that their identity, their honor, their whole life is a lie. He basically unplugs them from their own world.
And we see this perfectly with the warrior Rolf. Rolf is the classic hero, strong, proud, rigid, like a statue carved from ice. So what does the Jester do? He doesn't try to shatter him, he melts him. He uses his words to dissolve Rolf's entire sense of self until this legendary warrior is just gone. swept away into this river of indifference, totally meaningless.
So, a warrior, a whole assembly, they've been dealt with. But the Jester's not done. He's climbing the ladder, the fourth footprint, the roots in the ash. Now he's going after the biggest target yet, the idea of law itself.
And he finds his target in the marketplace, the beating heart of society. It's the High Judge, the absolute symbol of order, reason, and social structure. To the Jester, this guy isn't just a man, he's the final boss of the old way of thinking.
But this is where the story throws a huge curveball, a massive warning sign. What the Jester is doing here, it's called active nihilism. And it's not just about critiquing the system. It's about burning everything to the ground with no plan for what comes next. It's destruction just for the sake of destruction. And we're about to see just how terrifying the consequences of that can be.
And just look at what happens when the Jester deconstructs the High Judge. He creates a vacuum. And nature abhors a vacuum. Something new rises up to take his place, the Red Judge. And it is horrifying. It's the skeletal thing from a nightmare. The thoughtful gavel is gone, replaced by a branding iron. Law based on order is replaced by a power based on nothing, on zero. Its only job is to decide what's already on fire and what's going to be set on fire next. It's chaos given a crown.
Okay, so he's basically burned down the outside world. What's left? The fifth footprint, the absence of light. The Jester has only one final opponent left to face, himself. The battle moves inside.
And this is the ultimate test of his whole philosophy, that absolute ish we talked about. His entire existence has been about reacting to the world, mocking it, taking it apart. So the question is, what happens when you take the world away? In a cave of total darkness and silence, with no one to perform for, does he just vanish?
And the answer is just perfect. In that absolute, crushing silence, he laughs. He becomes his own audience. And right there, he proves his point. He doesn't need us. He doesn't need the world. He doesn't need anything to exist. He is entirely self-sufficient.
So let's break down how he pulls this off. First, he's in total darkness, facing what the story calls the ego's eclipse. Then, and this is the amazing part, he finally merges his two halves, the gold and the verdant. But they don't just cancel each other out, they become a divisible unity. Like he's now powered by his own internal conflict. He becomes a self-contained universe. He's not reacting to the world anymore, he is the world. And with that, he walks out of the cave, completely transformed. The final footprint, the step into history. Everything up to this point, that was just the prologue.
His prologue is done. He's beaten the warrior, the judge, and even himself. Now he emerges as the shadow of the Overman, and he's heading for the big leagues, the courts of kings.
And this final line from the source just says it all so beautifully. The footprints ended. For the Jester no longer walked, he danced. I mean, come on. That signals the end of this tragedy, this deconstruction, and the beginning of the real story, the saga of frenzy.
Which leaves us with one massive, chilling question. Okay, the Jester proved he could take apart a warrior, a judge, a whole marketplace, but that was small scale. What happens when this frenzy is unleashed on an entire kingdom? What happens when this dancing, laughing agent of chaos gets a seat at the king's table? Well, that's where this part of the story leaves us, right on the edge of something much, much bigger.